You know, I don't really look back on my childhood as anything earth-shatteringly different than anyone else I grew up with. The significant stuff would come later, you know, but I suppose it has in some way shaped me musically, but it's not something I ever tend to think about too much. Try not to think about it anyway. I was born in '67, grew up in the early 70s in Longsight in Manchester. Irish working class, bit of an ethnic melting pot. Normal working class upbringing, really. They knocked our houses down to build this newfangled supermarket called Asda. We were moved to a place called Burnage, which was in the south of Manchester. All my family are Irish, so my dad was a DJ in the Irish social clubs, so a lot of country and western and Irish folk music. The first record I ever had was by Leo Sayer, and he was dressed as a clown doing it on Top of the Pops, and it was on Rack Records. But yeah, it was Top of the Pops, you know, that great, much missed institution, Top of the Pops, which shaped everybody's attitude of my age group anyway. Yeah, so it was kind of mid-70s, and then punk would come along after that and change everything. I was just a bit too young for punk rock, and then it kind of came to prominence in the mainstream around about 77, 78. And it was over by 79. So I was only 10, but I vividly remember walking down Burnage Lane and seeing a guy with peroxide white hair, skinhead, and a big black exclamation mark died onto the back of his head, which in 1978 or whenever it was, 70, 77, 78, was kind of like, fucking hell, what's that? Then by the time I'd heard of the Sex Pistols, I think it was already over. You know, the first band I ever thought that was kind of belongs to me were the Smiths. But in between the Pistols and the Smiths were the Jam that meant everything to everyone. You know, seeing Weller and the Jam on the Old Grey Whistle Test is something that stayed with me forever. Back in those days, music was the single most important thing in a young lad's life. There was no football on the telly. You know, there was none of the choice of mind-numbing shit that kids have now. So I was literally Top of the Pops and the radio, you know, and the FA Cup final. You know, bands meant something back then, you know, guitars and stuff like that, you know. They meant everything. Well, I don't think I ever decided to pick up a guitar. I remember doing music at school, and I don't think I ever had a guitar. And I don't think I was ever interested in it. At some point, my old fella bought an acoustic guitar. Don't know what make it was, but it was like it could have been a Gibson. I don't know. It looked, in my mind's eye, it's kind of a hummingbird, right? And it's always been a source of mystery because he couldn't play it. But it was behind the living room door. Now, I used to get in trouble a lot as a kid growing up for not going to school and smoking. And petty crime. I used to always get grounded. I just remember taking the guitar upstairs once and playing along to Joy Division records because they had such prominent bass lines. Although I didn't know anything about what was a bass line or anything. I just started copying them on the guitar. And then it kind of passed away the hours of just kind of stay in when everyone else was going out. Then the guitar ended up in my bedroom. So it became my guitar, and it was just like noodling around on it, you know. And then one day, one of the older lads from the estate knew a guy, and he came around and he tuned it up, which set me back about 10 years, because I was like, I didn't know anything about it at all, because there wasn't the internet or anything like that. Obviously, it started to become like a means to pass the time away, you know. I remember the first song I learnt was "House of the Rising Sun." This guy taught me the 5 chords, whatever it is, A minor, C, whatever the chords are. Yeah, practiced that for a long time, you know, and slowly, you know, was playing along to records that I was buying. After playing my old fella's guitar, or the guitar, my mum bought me one from the catalogue, and it was a black K Hummingbird, right? I think it was made of concrete. I can still picture that guitar, and I can still remember the absolute fucking horror and, you know, the disaster when you broke a string, because you had to go and buy another set of strings when you didn't have any money. I realised that I'm actually not very good at playing the guitar. So one of my first thoughts was, I'm not very good at playing other people's songs. So quite early on, it was like, I started to do my own thing, really. I wouldn't call it songwriting. I started to do my own thing. All of it sounded like House of the Rising Sun, with the scores in a different order. And if I was thinking about this today, I was thinking, why it was a quite an early thought. It's like, I'm not interested in other people's songs because I'm not that good at it. I haven't got the patience. I'll do my own. That'd be easier. So it was quite an early decision to, you know, set off on my own path, really.
It's your time is running out, and if you're down, I'll take it out. Ever.
If I had thought I was good at songwriting at any point before I joined Oasis, I'd have done it a long time ago. I was a late starter in that sense. To me, playing the guitar was a hobby, and it was just something that I did when I got stoned at home and just, you know, learning chords off the tunes I was listening to. I never really had any great ambitions that this is my thing and this is what I'm going to do with it. And I guess the first time I thought, wow, this is what I've written is great, is when I wrote Live Forever. And I'd written a bit of Definitely Maybe before that, like Bring It On Down and Columbia. But anyway, it's like writing Live Forever. I remember playing it, or writing it and then singing it to myself over and over and over again and thinking, fucking hell, this is fucking great. So it would have been like 93, mid 93, where I thought I was getting good at it. And I'm still learning. Still, you know, I've never been given a lesson about anything musical in my life. So I'm still learning things on the guitar, still learning chords by accident, or if you even call them chords. And so it's been a life's worth of fascination for me, the guitar. My first guitar was Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. Still one of my favourite ever guitarists. Steve Jones was the first, and then Johnny Marr was the one that was like, fucking hell, what is he doing? You know what I mean? Still can't tell you. Weller, he wouldn't be your standard guitar hero because he was the main man and the songwriter. So we'd fall into the category of songwriters. And there's been loads ever since, you know, and then you kind of go back and further back. And I'm kind of more drawn to guitar players who compose, other than, I mean, I suppose all guitar players do, but like Neil Young for me, and I'm more into the writers than the players, if you know what I mean.
Wake up, this must be some kind of fear. It's just this fear, the fear I have to know about you. She comes in the fall, and you can learn to walk before you fall.
Yeah, when I was a roadie for the Inspirals in the 80s, I mean, it was great. I got to see the world, you know, and got paid great for it. And yeah, I went to places that no one from Burnage had ever been. Then when Oasis started to tour the world, it became a bit of a pain in the arse because I'd done it before, right? And they hadn't done it before. So as you can imagine, if you're in a band with someone who's done it before, I know it'd drive me up the fucking wall, you know what I mean? When I started to tour the world in 94 with Oasis, having been around the world a couple of times before already, seen New York and seen Tokyo and Buenos Aires and, you know, the rest of it, I spent most of my time writing because I'd seen it all, you know, once you've been around a couple of times, you know, the world doesn't change that much. So I concentrated more on writing in those early years, but they were great days. You know, I didn't have to be with Inspirals. I didn't have to be anywhere. Didn't have to be doing videos. Didn't have to be photograph taken. Didn't have to do any interviews to start to kind of make sure the equipment. Didn't have to make sure the equipment worked. Just make sure it came on. Yeah, they were great days. Yeah, like 88 and 89 and 90s when I toured with them. They were fucking brilliant. It blew my mind actually. Yeah, it meant that when Oasis got to that initial first level, I wasn't freaked out by it. I'd done it all before. You know. I've been in an airport lounge where there's free crisps, you know, while the rest of the band were like, it's free fucking crisps, you know. Be like, there's free biscuits as well, by the way. Let's put it like this. I always thought I was going to be in the music business, right? I always thought in my quiet moments it was my destiny, right? But I hadn't written any songs and I wasn't in a band. When I met Graham Lambert, I thought, oh, this is it. I'm going to be a roadie. Fucking amazing. This will do me, you know. I have arrived. You know, side of the stage, loads of birds, getting paid, no one gives a shit. Thank you very much. That would be me. I could do that till I was 60. But of course, you know, things took a left turn in the 90s. When I was working with the Inspirals, the guy that used to do the monitors was a guy called Mark Coyle, who I met on the back of a tour bus on the first day of one of their tours. I didn't know him from Adam. And we got on straight away. You know, we like the same kind of music, the Beatles and Acid House and all that kind of thing. And it was him, when he used to line check the drums, he used to play this riff, which was on the ride cymbal and the floor tom, boom, 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 which was the opening bar of Live Forever, right? And he used to play that endlessly. And I don't know why, but I played the first 4 chords of Live Forever and we played around that endlessly for the front of house sound guy. When I wrote Live Forever, I was like, oh, that's that fucking, oh well. You know, don't tell Mark. Actually, the story begins, I'm in Munich with the Inspiral Carpets and I do my weekly phone call home to my mum. It's on a Sunday, right? Oh, where are you? Oh, I'm in Munich. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You know, how's Liam? Oh, he's in some band. What? In a band? He's in some band. Who with? Oh, with Bonehead. Bonehead? What? Is it a comedy? What? Oh, I don't know. He's in some band. I was like, oh, fucking hell. I didn't think anything of it. And so that tour finished and came home. I was still living at home, obviously, sharing a bedroom with Liam. And he's like, yeah, I'm in a fucking band. You know, they were doing a gig, which was coming up. We went to see him. I remember going with Clint and Graham, and they were pretty good. You know, they had this one great song called Take Me, right? Which was great, which they would never record. As the years went by, I used to say to them, record it, it's fucking great. I mean, it really is. No. And then, yeah, and then we're good. And, you know, he's my little brother and all that. And it's like, fucking, oh, well, they've got something. Yeah, so after the gig, Liam was like, fucking, oh, will you be our manager? And I was like, what? You're all right. Oh, you know loads of people. I was like, no, I know these lot from Inspiral Carpets, so they're not going to help any fucker out. Maybe they did. Maybe I've seen them twice. And then I remember being at home one Sunday and Liam saying, come and have a jam with us down at, they were practicing in a place called the Red House. Come and have a jam with us. And I was like, I can't be arsed. And he was like, come and have a jam with us, you lazy bastard. And I remember they picked me up at mine at India House, and I had this Hofner guitar, which was in the shape of a Les Paul, but it was really thin and it took a battery. And I didn't know for years that it took a battery. Also, it sounded a bit shit until somebody said, oh, they're active pickups. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, well, there'd be a battery somewhere. I was like, what? I put a fucking battery in it. It was fucking sounded the best thing ever. It sounded like fucking an atomic bomb going off. I remember going down and they had their few tunes, whatever they were, 3 or 4, 5 tunes, whatever it was, and kind of playing along with them. And it was all right, it's a good laugh. And I remember after the second time I went down, Liam saying, yeah, you must have loads of songs. Play one. And I was like, all right, well, you do this. You play that, show them what to play. And then everybody, I can't remember what song it was. And everybody joined in. And it was at that moment when I heard a song that I'd written come to life. I was like, fucking a massive awakening. And it was instant. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds fucking great. Everything that I've been doing at home, I'm not writing these songs at home for anything, but I'm kind of fucking around. And it's all, like when I'm writing a song, I hear it all in my head. And then I was like, and it sounds exactly like it did in my head. This is amazing. And then it was like, okay, right, well, I've got this other one. And then it just went from there, and they were fucking like mad Sunday afternoons where it was the start, I think I'd done a few rehearsals with them, and we were doing one song of mine, which was Columbia, but it was instrumental. I remember they would always play on the Tuesday night. It was a local band night, so they rehearsed on a Sunday. And it's the funniest thing, right? So I'm sat on a flight case on the top of an amp, jamming with Oasis, and we've got a gig on Tuesday, and it suddenly dawns on me that I've never played guitar standing up. Not only that, I don't own a fucking strap. This is Sunday night, and I'm skint. Never played guitar standing up. Now, that seems a fucking preposterous fucking notion right now. But I can only tell you that the Monday was probably the most stressful fucking day of my entire life. Whereas I had to borrow a strap. Can I borrow a guitar strap? Well, for one of the Inspirals. Fucking hell. I better get it back. It's a fucking strap. Fucking hell. And then going home and putting the guitar on for the first time and spending, I'd say, a good hour, right, looking in the mirror going, where am I going to fucking, is it there or is it there? And I think where you hold your guitar for the first time is crucial. It kind of signifies how much of a cunt you're going to be. Because if it's too high, you're not getting no fit birds, mate. I'll tell you that for now. If it's too low, you're getting a goth, right? But if you get it right, the gunslinger. And I remember looking in the mirror thinking, it doesn't look right. Fucking. Anyway, nailed it, right? Clearly. And I remember going to the gig and I was more stressed out. I think in a way it benefited me because I was more stressed out about playing standing up, but I didn't know what to do. I hadn't practiced. It's not like you hear stories that kids have been practicing for years for that moment in front of the mirror. I was stressing about it for 24 hours. Thank fucking God it was before phones and cameras, because there would be some pretty fucking awkward footage of it now. But, an exhilarating experience all the same. The sound, right, that everyone goes on about, the sound was born out of the fact that was the only sound that we could get out of the equipment that we had, right? Bonehead had one amp. It was a Carlsberg. If Carlsbergs made amps, they'd be shit, and it was. And it only had one sound, and it was good when you turned it up full, right? I had a Vox AC30 that belonged to Manny, right, from the Stone Roses, the second best band from Manchester. And that only sounded good if you turned it right up. So that was it. Everyone went on about the fucking sound, and it was like, well, that was it. It was born out of the fact that the equipment we had was shit. The Vox head was going through a Talk PA speaker. It was awful. But you masked it all with volume. I guess that made me write Liam's vocal parts in a higher register to sing over the racket. The sound was born, but it wasn't something we studied at all. And if anything, we struggled trying to keep it once we became bigger, you know, and better equipment. You know, you're kind of, you know, you're on stage thinking, that's too good. This amp sounds great. It's cost me $4,000. I don't like it. The Jam, obviously, were from London and they were from the arse end of punk. So I didn't really take any ownership of it. But the first band that I remember from the beginning were the Smiths. And they were from Manchester and they were fucking brilliant. Seeing them for the first pictures of them in the Manchester Evening News and then seeing them on TV, because Morrissey was like no one else before and there's been no one like him since. And to his left, stage right, is this kid, and he's got a big red 355 or whatever it is, and he looked cool as fuck. And the way you read about them, they write the tunes together, and that's, I mean, still a massive fan. But anyway, one day I'm coming out of 810V, and I've just bought their new album, Dusk, right? So I bump into this guy who I'd repeatedly bumped into in the Hacienda. Don't know him, don't know his name, don't know who the fuck he is. But he's one of those guys you just let onto in the, you know, you'd see him at all the gigs and the raves and all that. And he's like, oh, what have you, well, so I've got an 810V bag, what have you bought? And I was like, oh, God. Then he said, oh, you know, mentioned something about our kids fucking. And I was like, I didn't really think anything of it, you know what I mean? And he said, so, what are you up to? And I was like, I was going to rehearsals that night and I'm in a band. What are you called? Oasis. Have you got a demo tape? I'll play it to our kid. And I was like, who's your kid? And he went, Johnny. It's like he must have thought I should have known who he was, kind of thing. It's like, Johnny. And I still didn't twig. And I was like, Johnny, and he went, Johnny Marr. And I was like, fuck, what? You're Johnny Marr's brother? Yeah. So anyway, it took him back to my flat, gave him this demo tape, the famous demo tape that we give him McGee, or would give McGee about 10 days later. Off he goes. I didn't think anything of it. There's a lot of bullshitters in Manchester. Glorious blaggers. Was he Johnny Marr's brother? Didn't fucking look anything like him. Whatever. I'm not even sure I even mentioned it to the band. And then I remember maybe a couple of days, or I can't remember how long after that, coming in, and the phone went. Hello? Is that Noel? Yeah. Hi, it's Johnny. Right. Johnny Marr. And people say to me, did you think it was a wind-up? And I'm like, no. Can't that arrogant. Do you know what I mean? Of course he's going to fucking call me. My number was on the demo tape. Oh, really like you? Really? Oh, yeah, you fucking band, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to go for that? I mean, I'll tell you now, it's fucking ludicrous. I was a nobody, right? Nobody knew who Oasis were. No one. We ended up going for a drink in this pub down by the canal with Johnny Marr from the Smiths. And then he walks, Johnny Marr, and I'm just a fucking lad, right? And you know, where'd you get what guitars do you play? I had an Epiphone, right? We were talking about guitars. And what do you think of it? It's fucking mad, right? And he's like, where'd you get them from? And I was like, well, Johnny Rodas, but there's this place in Doncaster called Music Ground. And he'd never heard of it. He said, do you know where it is? And I'd been there. Something to do with the Inspiral Carpets. I think they bought some stuff from there. I'd been there anyway. And the next, he said, could you take us there? And I was like, yeah. What are you doing tomorrow? Fuck all. What is there to do? Nothing. So he picks me up in a car at India House. And I'm sitting in the back and he's sitting in the front. And there's a guy driving. I vividly remember he's playing Exodus by Bob Marley, right? The long version. And Johnny's turning around going, get on the fucking groove. And I'm like, I love Bob Marley, right? The guy driving has the most annoying laugh I think I'd ever fucking heard. Doncaster's a good hour and a half away. And he had the most annoying, the loudest laugh I've ever heard. This guy would turn out to be Owen Morris, who was Johnny's engineer at the time. So we go to Doncaster. We go to Music Ground. And Johnny's like, he's like a kid. This one in Doncaster was a mad shop. Like a million. I mean, it was a mad vintage guitar shop. They're not the same anymore. It was like an Aladdin's cave. So we go in the front door, and there's, and Johnny says, right, okay, I need to go and eat first before I shop. So we go to a sandwich shop and he says to me, it's a bit of advice. Before you go guitar shopping, don't do it on an empty stomach. And then I was like, okay. And we went and had a sandwich and a cup of tea in a cafe. And then he went and bought a Stratocaster with fucking 9 pickups in it, right? But I still only know this guy 2 days, right? He's like a poster from my bedroom wall that's come to life. He's got this black Strat with 9 pickups and he's saying, do you think it's a bit mad? And I'm like, yeah, it's mad as fuck. Yeah. He's like, he bought it, you know. And then we went back, we travelled back to Manchester and he says, do you want to come out tonight? And I was like, yeah. So he ends up, and he's like, do you like Japanese food? I'd never had a Japanese meal before, ever in my life. And I ended up going for a Japanese meal with him and his Mrs. Ange. Then we end up going back to his house, right? This is a fucking true story. And he's playing lots of tunes and blah, blah, blah. And his studio's downstairs and there's all these famous guitars that I recognised. It's got to about, 2 o'clock in the morning. He's getting me a taxi to go home. And he's going on about the band and all that. When are you playing next? And I went, actually playing in a couple of days in Glasgow at a place called King Tut's. And he was like, King Tut's? Oh, fucking hell. That was the famous gig. So I left his house at 2 o'clock on like a Friday night. The next day was my birthday. The day after that, we went to Glasgow and met Alan McGee. It took place over one weekend. Well, the difference between writing those first 2 albums is I didn't realise I was writing the first one because you're just writing tunes to play at local band nights. So your little half an hour set or whatever it is, you know, we did quite a few, maybe a dozen. We were playing every week, you know, to like 10 people. And every week, the shittest song in that set would get bumped for another one. Or I never realised I was writing an album until Be Here Now. Because I'd already written Morning Glory, effectively. So your first record, you know, it's the old cliche, isn't it? You get 10 years to write your first record and, 10 weeks to write your second. So you don't really realise you're writing it. You're just doing songs for your little half an hour set at your local band nights. Well, definitely maybe it was done live. That's a kind of anomaly in the Oasis thing. Not really fair to compare anything to that. That was us in our rehearsal room in a studio, which is virtually the same size as the rehearsal room. We just bashed it out live, you know. Morning Glory. Again, there was just, I wrote so many songs. That's all I ever did. Still to this day, it's all I fucking do. I've got no hobbies. I don't do anything else. Go to the studio, watch football, have something to eat, get pissed, go to bed. That's my life. Like even then, just writing and writing and writing. You know, we went to Rockfield straight off a tour, and I had the songs. All the songs had one verse and one chorus. And I was just going to write the second verses when I got there. Well, things got a little bit out of hand when I got there. So that's why most of the songs have got one verse and one chorus. And the ones that don't have, the ones that have got a second verse and a middle eight were the ones I'd written before I got there. You know, it was a blessing in a way. I wrote one of the biggest albums of all time, and we're still a real little indie band. After that, when the spotlight of the world is on you, as a songwriter, I struggled with that. For years, I was like, I didn't know what I should be doing and didn't know how to do it. And I'd got paid and I wanted to have a fucking good time, you know what I mean? It took me a good 3 albums to kind of be not asked about it and just fucking write, you know what I mean? So the first 2 albums I take it as one period, you know what I mean? Because they were all written pretty much around the same time. I mean, All Around the World was written in 1992. The reason those set of songs are on Definitely Maybe is because they were the ones we were playing live. I'd already written a bunch of others that we just didn't get around to playing live because then it just fucking blew up, you know. It gets more difficult as you go along being a songwriter. And it should get easier, right? But it doesn't, it gets difficult. Wonderwall, no fucking idea. I have no idea why every conceivable fucking race of person on this planet gets Wonderwall. I guess it's because the those first 2 records, you're not trying to second guess yourself. You're just writing from the heart. You know, it's instinct. Then after that, you're a fucking big songwriter. I've got an Ivan Novello. You know what I mean? I've got to be doing something a bit different than this, you know. It's when you start wearing a hat, getting a fucking tiger. I guess because they're coming from a place of innocence and truth, and then you become a big corporate part of the machine. I mean, it's different for everybody. Some people thrive on it, you know what I mean? But I struggled a bit with it, I've got to say. Well, thank God I got those first 2 albums in there and before anybody realised I was a bit of a chancer. And then by the time I'd learned how to do it properly, we went into the 2000s then. But I guess the one thing you've got to have as a songwriter, I think, is you've got to trust in your own instincts, and you've got to be fearless and not fucking listen to anybody else. If you haven't got those things, you should be a professional songwriter that sits in a shed and writes songs, you know, for pop stars. Then you do listen to other people, and, you know, then you do give a shit because you're trying to get it on the radio. All the songwriters that I admire never really gave a fuck. Neil Young, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, Macca, John Lennon, Weller. There's got to be a sense of fearlessness about it. And I didn't have that for quite a few years because Oasis was such a brand and I had nobody to kind of lean on. I didn't have a John, or I didn't have a Keith Richards or a Mick Jagger. You know what I mean? It was kind of, I was doing it myself, really. It was fucking hard work. I remember being in the biggest band in the world, right? Between 95 and 97 and thinking, when is this going to fucking end? This is just, it's hard work, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I was writing all the fucking songs, doing all the fucking interviews, coming up with all the ideas for the videos, doing the gigs, and it's just like, I need a holiday and a hug. That year and a half when it went from theatres like the Apollo and the Town and Country Club, we did one arena in Sheffield and then we went straight to stadiums, fucking football stadiums. And I remember, you know, our promoters, they always used to come to me first, thinking of putting you on that main road. Whereabouts? What do you mean whereabouts? Well, where? In the state? What? On the pitch? Yeah, in the stadium. Well, how many is that old? Well, 60,000. Think we'll sell it out? Well, you'll do 2 nights. You know, it's a good job I've got a lot of trust in these people and still do, like my management and my promoters. So I'm like, look, if you think we can do it, you know, do it. You know, we'd only signed off about fucking year before we were walking out in the football stadium that I'd grown up in. I mean, they were really, really, really great gigs. The Nebworth one, because it was the biggest. But those main road shows, that's it. That's what Oasis was at that time. You know, it's where I'd seen Pink Floyd in '88, and I'd seen Guns N' Roses and the Rolling Stones, and then I was playing there. We were playing there. Do you know what I mean? It's mad.
Final preparations are being made for the arrival of 250,000 rock fans at Nebworth in Hertfordshire for one of the biggest ever open-air concerts in Britain. 2 million people tried to get tickets, many to see the band of the moment, Oasis.
Of course, the one thing that no amount of hype can guarantee is the weather. And if it rains this weekend like it did today, Hertfordshire could be treated to the sight of 250,000 Oasis fans completely drenched to their rock and roll bones. Meeting Oasis is a little like going to see the Queen these days, except for all the swearing, of course. You don't get to stand anywhere near the great stars, let alone interview them. Instead, the media just stand back and listen to their words of wisdom. Today's photo call was to publicise the 2 Oasis concerts this weekend at Nebworth Park, the biggest music event in Britain this decade, we're promised. The figures speak for themselves. £5 million worth of tickets sold, 50 miles of cables laid, and enough logistical problems to keep everybody busy.
We've got to get 125,000 people into this greenfield site off the edge of the A1 motorway. We've got to get them out again Saturday night, back in again Sunday morning and out again Sunday night, and that is a considerable difficulty.
It has been spoken about. I mean, it's like after this gig, what are we going to do next? And you can't do anything but do the biggest gigs, so we can't play anywhere bigger than this. I mean, the only other thing would be to come back and like do a residency at Nebworth or something, play every night of the week from 8 till 11 or something like that, but we're not going to do that.
fucking hell. They're quite an adjustment to make because, like I say, we went from theatres where we're all playing here, and then we walked out on Main Road. Fucking Bonehead's a different postcode. You know, Liam was over there somewhere. We're like, why? We're so far apart. And those are the adjustments you've got to make, where you were playing on a tiny, small stage, and your sound is filling the room. You know, it's shaking the floor. And then you're on a fucking massive stage, which in itself is the size of a football pitch. You know, you've got monitors and it's all posh and you can hear yourself for the first time and you're like, ugh, fucking hell, about that. But we powered through, you know, did the best we could. Now, the thing about BA now is, I'd say the lesson I learned from it is when you shouldn't be making a record, don't fucking make a record. We sort of let Morning Glory land after Nebworth, and that American tour that came just after Nebworth that ended in a fucking disaster and ruined us effectively in America. Instead of coming back to England and all going our separate ways, we decided to go into the studio with a load of songs that weren't good enough for the first 2 records. And we're trying to make it sound important with strings and all that kind of thing. I don't like it as a record, but I loved it at the time. But it's when we got out on tour, and this is what I mean about letting Morning Glory land and kind of, you know, do its thing and let the ripples of that just fade away. It was still a massive record when we went out with the Here Now. And all the gigs we were doing, most of the people at the gigs had still never seen us. So they'd never seen us do Morning Glory, far less fucking Definitely Maybe. So you'd get all these really energetic punk pop songs of Definitely Maybe, and then all these iconic songs of Morning Glory, and then these songs of Be Here Now where people would go, be over in 7.5 minutes, this one. What can I tell you? Instantly, to me, was like, oh, these songs are not working. And no matter what we did on that tour, we could never fucking make it work. We started off doing too many, and then we weren't doing enough of them. And this is a massive but, as much as I don't like that period musically, that was the best time I think Oasis ever had out on the road. It was fucking amazing. It was work, and it was hard work, but we had such a fucking laugh. I mean, when the film is made of that tour, which inevitably it will be, that was when the chaos went up 10 notches. It was mental. I mean, it was fucking brilliant. It was a good fun. It was a good laugh. Initially, the first sessions, took place in here, and we got asked to leave because we were playing it back extremely loud, and I mean extremely loud. And someone was doing a fucking Swedish classical album across the hallway, and took offence to it. We was just like, look, should we just fucking can't be arsed with this? There was press outside 24 hours a day. And we were in here one night. It was the year the MTV Awards were in London, and we'd won everything. We had won everything that there is to win, right? And we sat in here listening to the Beatles, and we're drinking and fucking having a laugh, you know. I don't think we were recording, we were just partying. And someone was like, well, we're supposed to be somewhere tonight. It's like, I don't know. When we were going out though, weren't we? I don't know, It's like there's a fleet of cars in the fucking driveway waiting for us. I don't know. We forgot to go to the fucking... It was like the limos turned up, and we were like, it's an hour. We forgot to go. If you watch the footage back, right, there's 5 empty seats on the front row for every award that's called out. And they'd obviously rehearsed the camera angles, and these cameras come swooping in. There's fucking empty seats. And Alan McGee had to go and collect all the awards for us, right? And he was on the phone going, where are you? I'm playing the fucking piano in Abbey Road. And he's like, I've fucking been there on my own. Like, we forgot. We completely forgot. Yeah, that's just one night in like 2 years of just absolute fucking madness. Madness. But like, brilliant though. Really good. Enjoyed it. Loved it. So after that, then we get to Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. When Bonnet and Griggs left at the end of that period in the south of France. Although that's not a great album, there are some good moments on it. When I hear Go Let It Out, I can see that I'm trying to do something different. But then when Gem joined, amazing musicians. But I've never really thought, well, these guys can only do this, so I'm only going to write that. Or these guys are capable of this, so I'm going to stretch them. I'm not that good as a songwriter. I can't just fucking say, right, well, you know, I'm going to write this particular style of music or that. I have to wait for them to fall out of the sky, you know. The albums are what they are. That's what's presented to me by the whoever, and I put it out there, and that's it. It's not like I've sat and directed it all. So again, ever played that much lead guitar, did he? Can't remember now. I don't know. I think I was still doing the big ones. But no, I've never really written songs to tailor whoever's in the group at the time. Yeah, now it's a bit, spread your wings a little bit, but Liam had started to write songs, and yeah, Gem and Andy were songwriters in their own right. So I was like, well, you know, they were gonna, you know, I've got this song, right, well, let's hear it, you know what I mean? It's as much Liam's band as mine, and that was it. You know, we did it, but like I said to everyone, we're a band, and that's it, and I welcomed it, you know what I mean? Then I went through those years, but only having to write half an album for about 10 years, I was like, this is fucking great. Why can't we do that all the fucking time? I got to write 5 songs. I'd have done it 10 minutes, fucking 4 months off, sitting in the West Indies, drinking rum. It's fucking brilliant. It's what a rock star should be like. Well, I thought it was great at the time, or I wouldn't have, you know, got on board with it. But I know what you mean. I won't sell that amount. I'm not going to sell that amount of records again. But saying that, I'm not going to sell. My first solo album sold 1 million records. I'm not going to do that again either. I'm glad I did them in the first place. Imagine not having those 2 albums. Fucking hell. Thought gives me the shivers. I've got there numerous occasions since then in my own head, which is where I live. So fuck everybody else. When you're not feeling great about yourself, they become a bit of an albatross, right? But then when you are feeling great about yourself, it's like the fucking best thing ever. So I just did it. You know? Do I wish I'd written them? Fuck yes. Yeah. I don't think Oasis is anything that you can sum up in a nifty sentence. There's 4-hour documentaries about this shit that still don't really tell the story. Everybody who's in a band says this. We were just a good little band. We fucking made it, you know, they all say that. The songs speak for themselves, and you know, there's a different generation who've come along now, have taken ownership of it and a certain aspect of it, and good for them. Crack on, have a great time. You know, but I don't really sit and think about it. I'm too busy moving on to the next thing, whatever that might be. If you didn't see Oasis live right up until the end, you haven't really seen a band live then. And that thing that started on a council estate, in a tiny bedroom of a tiny house on a council estate in Manchester, went all the way around the world, and it's still going. We were fucking great live, and the songs were whatever, you know, you perceive them how you want to perceive them, but the gigs, the nights that we did were amazing. You know, they were really, really great. The spectacle of 70, 80,000 people all, you know, when the crowd is all going like that and the stadiums are shaking. And not only in England, you know what I mean? That's the thing that fascinates me about it. It's all over the fucking world. It was fucking really, really great. Really great. You know, really great. I don't dwell on it at all. You know, if I'm asked to do a documentary about, yeah, my thing, you know what I mean? I'll give evidence. I'll embellish the truth for anybody. It's different for me. You know, when I hear Wonderwall on the radio, you know, I listen to it differently than anybody else. I listen to it like, we should have wrote a second verse. You know, everyone is just going, oh, maybe, you know, fucking dancing around the kitchen, whatever, great, you know. So I've got a different take on it than I'd say 99% of the people. I'm sure the people in the band who played on those records are listening for their own little part in it. And I'm sure Alan White, when he hears the drum fill of Don't Look Back in Anger, is, I did that. You know what I mean? I'm sure. So as an overview of it, yeah, it's fucking all the greatest thing that ever happened to a British musician. One of the greatest things that ever happens. So yeah, I love it, but I don't dwell on it ever while doing things like this.
There's reporters and photographers, but no sign of Noel Gallagher at his North London home tonight. No confirmation either from his record company that the band has split, just an admission that they're having internal differences. Oasis' American record label has denied a split, leaving the industry asking what's the story.
I'd already written a load of songs. I was going to carry on no matter what. I had a very definite thought that I was going to do nothing, initially do nothing. A lot of people rush into it, I'm free, fucking. I took a bit of time off and decided that I didn't want to start another band. Then I was like, fucking hell, that means going solo, that's worse. But I don't want to be in a band. I didn't want to have to find another singer and then do all that. So the most noble thing was to go solo, and that didn't really fire me up either. But I kind of slowly got used to that. So I freed myself from my record deal and, I've got no ties to anybody. I'll start my own record label. So I won't have anybody telling me, what direction they think I should be taking. And I'll just make a record and we'll take it from there. Turns out the record turned out really fucking great. And I was like, right, okay, right. So got put a band together. And a band of grumpy middle-aged men, and off we went out on the road. And it's been a fucking pleasure ever since. I would not have made the records. I wouldn't have written the songs that I've written if I was still in Oasis. What a Life wouldn't exist. Black Star Dancing wouldn't exist. None of it. When I was writing for Oasis, you're writing for something that is very rigid in its sound, and I could never, you can shift it a little bit, but you can never, it's like two guitars, bass, drums, vocals, keyboards, that was it. And it was great, but it was, in hindsight, and only in hindsight, at the time, right up until the night that I left, I didn't see it as a hindrance. It was kind of like, I was in it. Looking back on it, it was a hindrance because he's singing, he's definitely playing the bass, he's definitely playing the guitar. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this is anything goes, all the way to Who Built the Moon, where literally anything fucking went. It's way more freedom. The more freer you become, the less records you're going to sell. But that's all right, because as we've discussed already, those first two albums, thank the fucking Lord for them. But the difference now is, I use multiple drummers on my records. There's drummers that I know that will be good for that song and won't be good for that. And then there'll be drummers that I know that'll be good for that, but not be good for that, And same goes to bass players and guitarists and vocalists. Yeah, you can just spread your wings a little bit and be a bit freer with your sound. Like when I did those EPs few years back and Black Star Dancing, which I recorded in here, that would never exist. It's a lot freer now, yeah. Just you know, and I can take my time making records. And like, Who Built the Moon, for instance, I didn't know what the fuck was going on until the week before it came out, until it was finished. Me and David were just, you know, what we were doing, you know. That we could never do that because, yeah, Oasis was quite rigid in the way it was perceived and the way it was approached, and everyone in the band, me included. Stadium rock, that was the end game, you know what I mean? And which is great, but it's not something I'm into anymore. My songwriting has never, ever, ever, the way that I do it has never changed. It always happens more or less in the morning before lunch. The bulk of my songs are written in the spring. Don't fucking ask me why. I have no idea. I didn't plan it that way. It just seems to be that way. And the music, the entire song comes first. The melody, the arrangement, everything, the entire backing track is done before I even write a single word. And then they just kind of fall out of the sky. It's not, but everybody does it differently, you know what I mean? There is no right and wrong way to write a song. I know I've spoken to many songwriters and they're all completely fucking different, you know. The way that I do it is the way that suits me. So I kind of tend to write at home without anybody, you know, like watching a fucking clock. You watch the clock, it never does anything, does it? If you watch me writing a song, you think, what is he actually doing? And then, you know, I'll write one line a day. I've lost a couple, and now that you've mentioned that, now that I've had that thought, I'm getting fucking angry just thinking about these two guitars that I've gone missing. You know, I'm not into the science of guitars and fucking giving them names and all that bollocks. You know, but I've lost a couple of guitars, and one that's really one of the best guitars I ever played, and the fact that I just don't know how they've negligence as they've been left somewhere or fucking, you know what I mean? That pisses me off. But I do from time to time in the lockup get guitars out that I've written big songs on. I'm like, oh, fucking hell. Play it, you think, fuck me, some shit. Fuck that, this stinks. The most important ones, I'd say, are probably all Oasis ones, but my favourite ones will be a little bit different, I think. Black Star Dancing is one of my favourite things I've ever done, as is Holy Mountain. Live Forever, because that was the song that changed it all. Don't Look Back in Anger, because that's become like part of the furniture. Probably my favourite out of them all is probably Supersonic, because I just wrote it on the spot in the studio in about a fucking hour. It was, and recorded it that night in about 4 hours, and it was Oasis' first single, and it set us on the way. What a Life, Riverman, there's some great stuff, you know. But because my stuff with Oasis is kind of, you know, worldwide, you know, culturally significant. Did you hear that sound then? That's one for The Guardian weeping. And my High Flying Bird stuff is not, they're always going to get compared to each other, which is unfair.
If not for the mountain, tell me who will stand tall. It's the money you're counting, and I hope you got it all. Nature is dancing, and it makes me sweat. The echoes are clearing, but we ain't done yet. But we ain't done yet. And we can ride on all night.
I do try to make the finer details of it. And I genuinely wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. I fucking love it. I think as an artist anyway, I think particularly in the times in which we live, you've got a duty. If you can create, put it out there, because there's enough shit in the world as it is. You know, I'm sitting back fucking smoking, you know, eating fucking Chinese food in the Bahamas, you know, checking how many fucking millions of streams Wonderwall's done today. That's not nice, is it? You know, might as well keep going there and trying to beat it. I don't think I'll ever stop. I might stop touring because I might not be able to do it at some point. But the writing, I genuinely would have nothing else to do. I don't know what I'd do. I genuinely don't know what I'd do if in some bizarre science fiction film, right? You can't write any more songs. I wouldn't know what to do from like 10 in the morning till I go to bed at night. I don't know what I'd do. It'd be horrendous in the international break. I'd literally have fucking nothing. And I mean fuck all to do. So I don't care. As long as I am remembered, I don't give a fuck how they remember me. No, I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less. The music's there. Not bothered. Your legacy is decided by people who've never met you. So, you know, I couldn't care less. I think I'll be all right. You have to accept that the great stories that we all see in the documentaries, it's not possible anymore for that to happen anymore. I don't think the story of 5 guys from a council estate going to do what we did is possible anymore. That being said, is just concentrate on the music, you know, and if you are good, right, you'll get there. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. I hear this argument all the time. There's fucking great bands out there, but they're just not being discovered. Really? Are there? Are you fucking seriously telling me that there's one of the great songwriters of our time is living above a fucking chippy in Leighton Buzzard, right? No. If you're that good, you'll get there. You will get there. But the music business has changed. So I think the band thing at the moment is pretty dead. But songwriting is really fucking important. Songwriting is really important. I mean, there's not one piece of there's not one nifty little fucking thing you could say, well, if you do this, you're going to get that. It doesn't work like that. If you're into writing songs, write as many as you can. And then, you know, play them to other people. You know, and then somebody will play it to somebody else and use whatever the mediums are to get it out there. But you shouldn't get into it to be famous or to be successful. You should be in it. You know, the music itself is the reward. That's what it is. You know, the greatest gift I ever got from Don't Look Back in Anger was the fucking song itself. You know, that in quiet times when I'm at home, I play that song to myself, to sing it to myself, you know what I mean? That's the greatest reward. And it's a long fucking haul, man. It is a long haul. You know, I got one of my lads, young lad, getting into playing the guitar. They want to open the case and they want us to jump out and fucking do all that for him. It's just like, mate, this is a lifetime's fucking shit. A lifetime. And they're like, can we on a PlayStation? Yeah, go on, here. Go on. Don't bother. You know? I've seen young kids playing instruments and they're fucking great. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot more information out there. But now when you're starting, even if you're in a band, for equipment and what it all means and what it does and what you should be doing and tips for this and fucking videos for that, you'd have a sleepless night if what we used to do in I don't know how we got by, you know. Have you ever seen the shot from the stage at Nebworth? I've got a pedal board that's on a piece of plywood. It's got a delay pedal on it and a tuner. 125,000 people. Couldn't be arsed. I didn't have no proper pedal board. Somebody said to me, why is the bass, middle and treble all on 10? like, because it all goes to 10. And he's like, try turning the bass down. I was like, don't fucking touch it. It sounds great. I was 20 years into it before I went middle. What was that fucking? Oh, so the louder you turn it up, you should turn the bass down. Why didn't fucking anybody tell me that 20 years ago? There's tons out there for people to be great. But I think what is more prevalent now is you fucking see really great guitarists. For example, there are shows on YouTube, right, with guys sat in rooms like they were born in Nashville. Do you know what I mean? All that stuff. And my lad will say, you can't play guitar like that. And I'm like, thank the fucking Lord. Because if I could play guitar like that, you know what I'd be doing right now? Playing guitar like that. That's what I'd be doing. And I wouldn't be going, maybe. Go anywhere with that. Maybe what? God.